To have passion in life is everything.
What's your Everest?
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
that 200-inch buck?
They just look so impressive when they're wide.
Especially running away.
Welcome to this week's episode of Eastmans Elevated.
It's like a think tank for outdoor activity.
Sounds exactly like my hunting. Just always thinking about it, always trying to evolve it and make it better.
Here's your host, Brian Barney.
Hey, what's happening, guys? Got a brand new Eastmans Elevated for you. So on today's podcast, I have back on my friend Braden Forsyth. So like I said, Braden's been on the podcast before, and Braden is all in on archery, in every facet of archery, improving his game, and lately the mental side of things. So he's been reading a bunch of books on human performance, and he mentions a bunch of them in the podcast. Make sure to write them down. They're great listens or great reads, as I also enjoy this genre of books. It's like trying to get the most out of this life we have, trying to get the most out of ourselves and the passions that we have. And so this is all about how it applies to bow hunting. We talk about the mindset needed on a hunt. We talk about being clutch in these scenarios where you really want to be at your best. We talk about being in flow state. So it just made for like this really enjoyable conversation, all the stuff that I'm super interested in and enjoy. So it was a great podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. I want to thank our sponsors, Kryptek. Kryptek has put together the best clothing system that I've had for hunting the West. And so I've been using it the last handful of seasons, and they have this great setup all the way from early season and the Sonora pants, the Sonoran hoodie, all the way to the late season with great insulating layers, great waterproof fabrics. They use Scholler fabric, which is the superior fabric in breathability. Just so impressed with this system, and I love the camo patterns as well. Been using the Obscura Transitional, and blends in all different habitats, in greens, in tans, pretty much every place I hunt. And as I look through photos, they just blend in so well, and I have buddies that have other camo patterns, and so I'm able to compare in different habitats, and that Obscura Transitional always blends in the best. And I think it gives me a real advantage out there bow hunting to be able to be still and not be seen by these ungulates. So great camo pattern, great system of clothing all the way from early season to late. So impressed by what Kryptek puts out there. So if you're in the market for some new gear, make sure to check them out over at kryptek.com. I also want to thank Cutter Stabilizers. So my friend Earl Stroll started this company. It was a small company, but he really put all his products through this testing and development. He worked on all the connections to make sure they're super strong. They're a carbon fiber bar, and he also has a sidebar mount, which I think a sidebar really helps with the hold on Western game because a lot of our shots come at longer ranges. So he has a sidebar mount. Right now I'm using the 15-inch out front, the 12-inch in the back, and then he has 1-ounce weights so you can add and subtract. And like I say, it really helps for a rock-solid hold, and then also helps with the reaction of the bow. So I've been having some, like if I do miss, and this bow has been shooting so good for me, but if it misses the X, it seems to go high. And so what I'm doing is sticking an extra weight on the front or taking a weight off the back to try to help that reaction to get rid of those high misses out of my group. So you can really mess with your bow and how it functions, and I really think it makes such a difference on these Western hunts where your feet are uneven and your adrenaline spiking and your hold just isn't as still. This is going to slow it down a bit and be able to control a better shot. So again, if you're in the market for any new stabilizers, make sure to check these out, as these are the absolute top of the heap over there at Cutter. I also want to thank Black Ovis. Black Ovis is an internet retail shop that has absolutely everything you need for your next hunt. They have a knowledgeable staff that can answer all your questions. They have a bonus point system where 1 point equals $1, and you get those back on purchases. And if you've got a big order for the off season, make sure to use our promo code. It'll save you 10% off your order. Just put in Elevated 10 in the Black Ovis site, and you can save a pile of cash. Also, make sure to check out Camo Fire. Camo Fire is an app where they have new deals that come up. In fact, 80 new deals every 24 hours. All kinds of different hunting gear and gadgets, top name brands. A lot of it's overstocked, really high quality gear. So you can check that out at Camo Fire over at their app. Over at Eastman's, you can check our mule deer course out that I did with Dan Picard and Guy Eastman. It's a video course that walks you through 100 different videos with multiple different chapters of everything I've learned hunting mule deer. It's a great price point. It's $99, and with the code you can save 10%. Just put in the promo code BrianMDC. Makes it $90. It's sure to further your learning curve by years in just the couple weeks it takes to go through the course. So make sure to check that out. Check out Eastman's Tag Hub. If you want a free subscription to Mountain Tough Fitness, you can put in the promo code Brian, and that'll get you a membership to Eastman's Tag Hub, and then also get you that membership to Mountain Tough Fitness, which is a great program. We really like those guys. I've really enjoyed doing it, and it's helped with my overall strength of my body, which has really helped. And it's made my running better. It's made my packing better, and so it's just going to make me a better bow hunter overall. So make sure to check those guys out. And everything we do over there at Eastman's. Got the Beyond the Grids, which is the internet TV show, and then the magazines Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal, Eastman's Hunting Journal. And you can check out Dan and I's new podcast. Hopefully it'll be out by the time this is out or the following day. I think we're planning on this Friday if I can get all approval. So just working around the clock to get that thing released. I think we're going to release 4 episodes right off the bat, and it's just an in-depth bow hunting podcast. But it's with Dan Picard, which I have great chemistry with and a great back and forth with. And already I'm just blown away at the episodes we've been able to put together. We'll just offer it all for free for you guys, put out one every couple weeks. So just go support us over on that feed. You can search Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal podcast, and should pop up hopefully in the next day or so if I can get my work done. So speaking of work, I better get back at it. Let's get into this podcast. It's a great one. It's with Braden Forsyth. I'm your host, Brian Barney, Eastman's Elevated. Here we go. Yeah, it sounds great. You're like a regular pro.
Don't go that far. I'm faking it. I'm faking it till I make it, Brian.
Yeah, that's like all of us.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. It's like fake it till you make it, but it is like just figure it out. You know, it's like everybody has to do that in every field and everything you do in life.
100%. It's yeah, I mean, going into just like what we're going to talk about today, and you know, finishing books that I'm reading is there's that struggle portion, right?
Mm-hmm. There sure is. It's like yeah, human growth is key. But yeah, I think it's like anything you do. It's like it doesn't matter if it's construction or if it's writing for me or filming or podcasting for that matter. It's kind of like just figure it out, and being a bit lost is okay, right? It's like part of the journey.
Right. That's part of the process, right? If you're afraid to be, you know, if you're afraid to be new to something, you're afraid to not know something, you'll never learn anything. You're afraid to fail, you'll never learn anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that's it. Mm-hmm, for sure. Well, stoked to get you back on the podcast. I've been meaning to do it for a while, but yeah, I love that like idea you came up with human performance and kind of reviewing some of these books, and then like also just things that we find inspiration in, and
right. Man,
I think it'll make for an awesome conversation.
No, I think so too. I think I think the only thing I'm concerned about is I just try to keep me on track as far as like I've got so many rabbit holes that I'm going down right now with everything that is just keeping me on track, and I tried not to drink too many cups of coffee today so I didn't talk too fast. So
yeah, well, I did the opposite. I drank too much coffee, so yeah, I'll be raring to go. So yeah, no worries.
I'm on cup 2 now, so I'll catch up.
Yeah. Well, no, I think those rabbit holes are good, but yeah, I think we just I think we just start and get chatting and see where the conversation leads, man. But stoked to have you back on. We were talking the other day, and you've really been working on human performance and on the mental side of things, which is so key to like anything we do in life. So what's the book that you just finished?
So the one I literally just finished it this morning, actually, is called The Art of Impossible, and it's a book about flow state, and it's a very interesting book. It's a very interesting book from the aspect of the flow state is that state that we get into where we're completely present in that moment. We're kind of that almost body experience where we're not thinking, we're just doing, and things are just going. But it's this very in-depth book about it. So I find some irony in that is that there's just all this in-depth information on getting into a state where you're not using you're not using that quote unquote prefrontal cortex or these parts of your brain. So it's very ironic to be reading a book about it, and then I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, well, how am I supposed to get into this flow state if I'm thinking about all these steps to get into this flow state, But it's just, you take a step back and you say, that's all the science behind it. It's the book, I call it chewy. It's a bit chewy. I mean, it gets it very, very in depth as far as the neuroscience, the chemical reaction, the neurochemicals and the chemical reactions in the parts of the brain. It gets very in depth in that. I always put it like, it kind of tells you how the sausage is made. And sometimes I just want just give me the sausage. I don't need to know how it's made, but, it's really interesting to kind of understand it and where it actually comes from in our biology, in our history, and why our brains function the way they do in this and get us into this flow state, because this flow state is such a powerful state for us to be in as human beings. It's such a like I said, powerful state, and get the ability to give us our peak performance, right? It's that feeling we all get that you kind of feel unstoppable, nothing else matters, just you have that one focused goal, and nothing else is really, you're so present in that moment, that nothing else, time doesn't matter. Nothing really matters except the focus of that goal. Kind of like you sent me those, talked about it the other day when you went down the river, and I mean, you were much talking about being in that flow state, in that state of like, no idea what time it was. Nothing mattered except finding what you were searching for, right? In that hunt. And I think that applies to a lot of us in hunting, in the outdoors and things like that, is finding that state. And, we're always trying to find that state, or at least I am. That's kind of my goal,
Yeah, man, that's it's a good description of it. It is such a powerful tool, and that's like when I used to explain why I loved hunting or why I loved fishing or trail running, was just that, like being in that present moment, which, was actually, a lot of that is flow state. But yeah, it takes conscious effort to get there. And I think that flow state, like when I think about it, it does represent fishing and hunting to me. When you are locked into that present moment, you're not concerned with problems or issues in your life. You're just living for the right then and there, and you're so focused. I think that flow state is also like listening to your instincts when you're hunting, is not out thinking yourself, is you definitely need you need this strategy, and you need to come up with different theories and use your brain. But when you're in the hunt and you're just reacting to the bugles and moving and stopping, and you're just reacting to this situation, and being in that present moment is such a beautiful thing. And I think, not only does it apply to fishing and hunting, like definitely applies to like carpentry work for me once I get working on carpentry and locked in. And for that matter, that flow state is trail running. But it's also, I can be in my own head while doing these activities and not get to that flow state. So it's like great to have a book that lets you understand the mechanisms and understand what flow state is and understand how to get there. And then to realize when you're in those situations to kind of let things go, listen to your instincts. And to me, that's when I feel truly alive, is when I'm in that flow state of just enjoying the present moment right now and so locked in and passionate about what I'm doing that I'm just focused on killing that buck or bull, or just focused on finding that next run and catching that big trout that I'm after, or whatever the case is. But man, that is powerful, just to understand how everything works.
Yeah, and it really gets in depth to talking about, micro flow states versus macro flow states, being, these small, and I kind of, like we talked about how I relate. I look at all these peak performance things, and that really intrigues me, but how do I relate that to what we do, right? Like, how do I relate it to bow hunting, and not just hunting? Obviously, the hunting portion of it is very important to us, but I think guys like us enjoy the processes as much as we do the actual hunts themselves. And it's finding those flow states in those processes. Like, there's a micro flow state every time I shoot my bow. Every shot I'm trying to find this micro. I'm not just going in to shoot arrows at a target, right? It's trying to find this micro flow state on every single shot and redo these mini processes. The process is kind of the general idea they outline in the book about the process of the flow state is there's always a struggle portion in the beginning, which is our learning. That's our learning portion. That's our, we struggle in that portion. That's where we're actually using a lot of our brain to learn something new, and creativity and that kind of thing. And then it kind of gets into, then once you learn that, then you kind of get into that flow state, and then there's a recovery phase, right? Then you come down from that flow and you recover and you reevaluate and you go back through the struggle phase for a portion. And when I'm working on my shooting, just in my basement, just this morning shooting my bow in my basement, there's a piece of my shot process that I'm always trying to work on. Well, that can be considered a struggle phase, right? Like how I'm operating my release, or what, where I'm at mentally, or those kind of things. And then before I can find that flow state of each shot, and it's not every shot you find it, but then there's those shots that just everything feels right. And to me, that's kind of what I consider a micro flow state, right? It's a micro, my brain's out of the way. I'm not thinking about the shot anymore. I'm not thinking about the shot. I'm just doing my process, and everything breaks clean. And that's the shot we're looking for every season, right? And we want to take that shot and apply it to later on when it's that animal in front of us, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I work so hard to keep in the present moment. I don't really think much about the flow state. I just try to be present, which puts me into that flow state. But yeah, I like
Exactly.
that micro flow. Yeah, when shooting your bow, when shooting my bow, yeah, I'm so present. But see, this is a difficult thing that I struggle with is flow state in the mountains while hunting elk or while hunting mule deer is reacting to that situation and making these decisions in real time that are really quick and not like outthinking myself or overthinking myself. But when I get to that shot, it seems like I can't go into autopilot. I can't go and just not think about my shot sequence or executing a good shot, or my brain will revert back to this put the pin on them and go now, which is
Right.
horrible for my execution. So over the years, I've noticed that I have to be present in my shot, and being present in my shot is to think about, one of the major things in my execution, or to have this sequence that I think through. And so, when I'm going to take my shot, I actually have to snap out of the reaction phase and go, okay, Brian, execute this shot. Like, I have to tell myself that when I'm drawing back my bow, or the minute my pin settles, it's like, okay, here we go, and pull, and I'll actually talk myself through that shot.
Yep.
And by doing that, that I stay present in my shot sequence, and I don't shortcut anything, or I don't like get cross-wired in my shot where my pin just goes to the body and my brain just goes now, and I execute, which are not accurate shots for me. And so, like, over the past, it's been a lifetime of work, and I can just think back of the last 4 or 5 seasons. It's like, man, I just stay present in every shot and execute. Like, that seems to really help me. What do you think about that, or how do you execute on animals, or what's your process like to make sure that you're accurate?
I think you're. I mean, I'm in the same boat, Brian. That's why, I have to shoot the release that I shoot. I would love. I shoot a hinge, and I would love to go back to a thumb button for a number of reasons. But the problem with me is as soon as I know that button's there, and I can shoot on targets all day long and execute great shots with the thumb button. But as soon as I know that animal's there, it's the same thing. It's that pin. That pin gets on that animal, and it's like, let it go, here, get it down there. That shot's got to go. So I have to go through the process of understanding, working myself through that shot with that style of the hinge, because it slows me down. And you're 100% right. It's about being in that present moment, and that's part of that flow state too. Is being in that present moment. I know I've had shots on animals where I drew that bow back, animal had no idea it was there, and I'm already thinking about the trophy pictures and the pack out, right? And, I'm not present in that exact moment. I'm not. The mantra, I think, is a big, big thing that's helped me. Is just, I was told one time by a good friend of mine who's a very successful bow hunter, and he said, one thing we need to learn on animals is ribs and relax. And what he meant by that, and that's kind of become my mantra in my shot process, is you find a spot on those ribs on the animal, and you just relax and work through your shot, right? Like just calm yourself down, ribs and relax. And you're typically going to make a good shot. But I'm with you, like breaking myself. If I do just go into straight autopilot, there's a tendency for me to punch through that trigger. Whereas my other thought processes during my practice routine is to try and change that autopilot, right? It's trying to reconfigure that autopilot. And that's part of the struggle too. In that struggle portion is reconfigure that autopilot. So that autopilot is just keep pulling through that shot, keep relaxing through that shot. And, I know relaxing is not everybody's term when they talk about shooting, but it's kind of keep relaxing through that shot, keep working into that shot, and then the shot will go. I'm creating that as my autopilot versus the emergency eject button, as I like to call it. Is being able to choose that as my autopilot and choose that as my present moment. But again, I think you're 100% right. Is being present in that moment. You have to be present in that exact moment and not thinking about, oh, this animal, I got this animal. It's a confidence, but it's also I'm present in that step of the process, right?
Yeah, man. It's funny. It's like making the difference between a good shot and a bad shot for me is less than a second. It's just letting my pin float on that animal,
100%.
executing a good shot. And it's almost like a mindset. Like you almost get to this place. We're all good enough to make a kill shot on these animals at multiple different ranges, and we practice every day and look at our groups, and hardly ever is one of those arrows out of the group of a kill shot. But all of a sudden you stick a bull elk in front of you during the rut, and that arrow can miss them by miles. It's amazing. Yep. It's like you just you make your worst shots on animals, at least when you're starting out. It's like nobody's clutch at the beginning. Like clutch is something you have to earn, and it's through building these shot processes. And yeah, it's like making a good shot for me. I know if I execute, that there's a pretty likely chance that animal's going to die and it's going to be put in the middle. And so, like, it's almost like this mindset for me where I walk around saying, when I get the chance, I'm either going to execute a shot or I'm not going to shoot. It's that important to me. And we walk around and you just want to get into bow range, and it's so difficult to sneak within a stone's throw of a mule deer to sneak into a herd of elk. And so, you can work a whole season or multiple seasons to get this opportunity when you actually get a broadside animal. And getting into range is only half the battle. Like getting a shot at that animal, a good angle on them, and being able to get your bow drawn back is the other half of the battle. And so, it's so tough to get there that it's like, when I do get that opportunity, I will execute correctly no matter what happens. And there's sometimes where maybe I would have been better if I punched the trigger, because my shot or my pin's erratic and floating all over that animal. But I just know if I keep executing, 99 out of 100 times, that arrow is going to find its mark on that critter. And so it's almost like I had to change my whole mindset, where it's like, no matter what, I am going to execute my shot on this animal. It's that important to me. I don't care how big he is. I don't care if I kill him. I will execute correctly. And I would so that's what I like change my mindset around. And it's amazing how many animals start dying. It's amazing how clutch you get when you stay present, you execute, and man, it's just like these small little clicks in your brain of just like execute correctly when I'm drawn back, and then I go through my steps and then pull as that pin floats and that arrow hits its mark. And on animals, hardly ever are you waiting for a shot to break. Like that shot breaks really quick when you're shooting at animals. It's like if you execute correctly, it's not like you're sitting back there for 3 to 5 seconds waiting for the shot to break. It's like my pin settles, floats a little bit too much, and then slows down and settles a little bit slower, and then the shot breaks. But yeah, I think really getting control of that, it's like so tough to do, and it kills us as bow hunters. Like, it's like I started out with the trigger and everything went good. I was making good shots because you trigger now and the pin's, where you want it. But that's when you start to develop these issues. But, man, shooting at an animal is so difficult that it's like you not only do you work at practice year round, it's like you really want to work on your mindset in those situations and prepare yourself for those situations. And when you're on a hunt, be thinking about those situations. So when you draw back, that's all you can think about is, okay, I got to execute. And then it seems like those animals die.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, to start that is we as bow hunters, or at least me, and you'd said it too, is that it's really a matter of 1 second, right? Punching that trigger. We always think we have less time than we do. When that animal presents an opportunity, oh, I have to go now. When now versus taking the time to make a correct shot is really a second or less of difference, right? We have more time than we ever think we do. And we think, oh, I can't work through the shot. I got to punch this shot off, or I got to get this shot off. And you really don't, in a lot of situations, right? You really do have the time to make the correct, work through the shot as you always do. You've always been practicing. We always have more time than we think we do, in those situations. So it's a lot of that mindset that you talk about. When I worked at the shop, it was always kind of the running theme is, once you get to a certain level of shooting from a physical side, right? Understanding the physics and shooting a bow and the correct form or your correct form and what works for you. Then the most important 6 inches archery is between our ears at that point, right? It's that mind and how that mind works and our mindset going into that going into that process or going into that shot. But also goes down, you bring up a good point there is practice, and what does your practice look like? Where's your mind when you're practicing? I see a lot of people who shoot a lot of arrows, but they're not effective arrows as far as from a practice standpoint. They're just going through the motions. They're not using that mindset in March. They're not using that mindset now. They're not using the mindset through the summer that they're going to use, that's going to potentially happen in the fall, right? It's oh, I'm just going to go shoot a few arrows, and they're just getting arrows down range, which is beneficial to a point. But you have to, I try to go into every time I pick up my bow and go through a practice session or to shoot my bow, I'm trying to go into it with the mindset of there's an animal in front of me at all times, right? Like that's kind of the mindset I'm trying to work through, so that my mind is prepared for that situation. My mind is ready for that situation when it does arise. And that's kind of, look at a guy like Levi Morgan. He's shot in so many high pressure situations in tournaments that the hunting side for him, he makes some incredible shots and incredibly accurate shots in those high pressure animal situations, because he's shot with lots of money on the line, lots of things on the line. He shot under those pressure situations for so long that he doesn't get rattled when it comes down to an animal, and that pressure or so trying to almost create some pressure on yourself when you're practicing is very beneficial in my mind, as far as when it comes down to the end results.
Yeah, it's like practicing that execution. So it's like anytime you get pressure on you or you want to do good, the pin doesn't settle the same, It doesn't execute like being alone in your backyard or alone in your garage shooting. It's like different, right? And so
Right.
like putting that pressure on yourself through shooting 3Ds, shooting with buddies, shooting indoor, like whatever it is, it puts pressure on you. And when that pressure gets on you, all of a sudden that sneaky little target punch will get you, because that pin will sit right where you want it, and you want it to go now, and it's easy to shortcut the process. And maybe shortcutting the process gives you one good arrow, but eventually it's going to all fall apart and the wheels are going to come off, And so this is practice to execute correctly. And if you can execute correctly during these high pressure situations through your practice, is when you get with buddies, or when you get shooting in front of the guys at the Western Hunting Summit, or whatever the case is, that's where I really practice my execution. It's easy to shortcut the process there because you're nervous, the pin doesn't settle the same, you want to do good, you want to make a good shot, and it's easy to fall apart. And so, I use that as training to be clutch, to no matter what the situation, I'm going to let the pin float, I'm going to pull, the shot's going to break, and it's going to go where it's going to go. And I don't care, it can fall apart on me as long as I execute correctly, which it usually doesn't. That pin, the arrow ends up in the middle, I end up making good shots by practicing that. So I think it's important to practice intentionally. And when you go out, it's easy to go into autopilot and just whip arrows down range, but it's an opportunity to practice your execution. And then anytime you get a chance, 3Ds, on the line, leagues, with buddies, shooting for dollars, whatever the case is, like that little bit of pressure is a step closer to animals. And now, I've seen target archers, they usually transition into pretty good shots on big game animals, but I've also seen that those guys have to make that transition as well, that it's not a given just because they can shoot in those high pressure situations they're going to execute on an animal. And I've seen those guys crumble as well, that win tournaments and shoot under that high pressure, and all of a sudden you stick a 4-point buck in front of them and they airball it, even though they're a great shot, So the next level of hunting is being able to make the best shot you can on the critters you're shooting at. Like your skill set of shooting a bow and being really good at it, you have to transition that skill set into one arrow in the field at that trophy buck or trophy bull. And man, that's like the definition of being clutch, and that's the difficulty in bow hunting. That's what separates the mediocre bow hunters from the really good bow hunters. But it's not something that's just given at birth, or it's not something that comes natural. At least in my experience and all my buddies' experience, man, it's like something you really have to work at, and it's going to take you to the depths of the lows of bow hunting that you can get to be able to understand it and get there. Like, man, it cuts deep. It hurts to have your dream buck or your dream bull in front of you and have you duff it and miss that thing, man. It's like the worst feeling on planet Earth. But I try to use that and harness that to find redemption and go, man, the next time I am gonna execute correctly. But I think everybody has to go through this process, you know. It's like this learning process of becoming a proficient and consistently successful bow hunter is like being able to harness that and being able to execute or make your best shot on critters. And that's what I'm working tirelessly on, is to try to make that good execution on critters. And the other thing it definitely gets easier as time goes on and you harvest more animals. Like, a lot of the pressure comes off and you realize that the fun is in the journey, and the fun is in working hard at all these different facets. Like, you do fall in love with the processes, like you were saying earlier, and the fun is really in the journey of trying to kill a big buck or a big bull. And when it all comes together, man, it feels amazing. But the more you get under the belt, just the more confident you get, the more you execute quality shots on animals, like the more confidence you get. And so it's like really working towards that. And I also find myself as just getting more patient. Like, patience kills the buck and the bull, man. It's like I see inexperienced archers, and when they get into bow range, they'll make a big move to draw their bow, or a big move to draw their bow and walk around the tree or walk around the bush. Man, it's like the closer I get, the stealthier I get, and the more comfortable I get in bow range of letting animals move around me and not moving quick or waiting till their head's down till I draw my bow, like keeping that element of surprise. And I've noticed that I just let things develop, and I'm way more patient in bow range. And if it doesn't come together, fine, I'll chase them over the next hill because I didn't let them know I'm here. So I just don't get to a lot of those make or break moments. I mean, sometimes a deer picks me up and it's now or never. But for the most part, like, I try to get real comfortable in close and just let those things develop. And I think those are, that along with execution, like there's, I think these are the tools, or these are the things that you have to strive for when you want to find next level success with a bow and arrow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it brings me kind of to some other points, and again, in a couple of obviously things outside of our space that this human performance that I try and tie into, what our passions are, what my passion is, and it's bow hunting. And it's going back to that being present. Well, if we get so focused on the outcome, if we get any focus on the outcome, the result, then we're not being present in that process, right? So in our shot process, like you talked about, you try to be as present as you can in that shot process. You didn't say anything about killing that animal or harvesting that animal. You just talked about going through your shot process, and the results speak for themselves, right? If you go through your checklist and your thought process, and you're not thinking about, hey, I have to kill this animal, that has to be the outcome of this process that I'm doing, then you're completely right. You're not present in that shot. But if you're just present in each step of your shot, and you go through your processes in that shot, the outcome typically speaks for itself. It usually comes, right? So if we get so outcome focused on things then we can't be present in this current thing that we're doing, and it causes us to not be as focused on the process, right?
Yeah, man. That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta focus, do your job, like focus on what you can control and what you can do, and yeah, the results pretty much speak for themselves after that. So I love this vein of human performance, understanding the mind and the psyche and how it works, and then understanding how to harness it, and remembering that this journey, it's a long-term goal. Like, it's not something you learn on one animal, 1 year. It's a multi-year quest to try to harness this, and I don't know that it can ever be perfected. But once you build your process and you hold to that, the results just start to come. You start to climb that mountain over and over again. And you're right, you can't put too much pressure on yourself. You have to enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
The whole fun of this deal is to be able to work really hard towards our goal in the off season, and that's with training, with mind control, with shooting, like all these different facets, map research, studying. Like, there's all these different skill sets that go into being successful. And so in the off season, we're working on all these. And then, there's like this happiness or this joy that comes with like having this passion for this bow hunting and for this quest to try to top this mountain. So you're working hard on all these, but in turn, like, you're enjoying this process. And then the hunt, like, you gotta enjoy this 7 days, 10 days you get on the mountain to go match wits with these animals. Like, you should enjoy it along the way. And sure, it takes big effort, and it's not fun all the time when you're climbing or putting on these long hours or big miles, but it is. It's like that type 2 fun. And you have to embrace that and embrace how difficult it is. Like, sometimes it just feels like mission impossible with my bow in my hands. Even for me, that's been successful over and over again, sometimes it feels like it's never going to come together. But I've been there enough times where I just know if I keep putting forth effort, if I keep theorizing, I keep going, I keep pushing, like, keep giving myself opportunities, like, eventually it's going to come together, And so, like, I have this belief in it, but it is like the joy in the process is you have to fall in love with the journey and the adventure. And truth is there's a lot of failure in bow hunting, and it is going to crush you and break your heart. Like, for every big buck that I've killed, there's 2 that have got away or that I've messed up. Or for every big bull that I've killed, there's 2 that have got away or that I've screwed up or that have winded me, or like, so you got to pick yourself up from those lows as well. And just remember that success will come. Like, if you focus on the processes and the journey and the work and the effort, like, success just comes. It just starts showing up, And so, yeah, man, that's really where it's at and where a lot of the joy comes for me.
And the other part of that, Brian, too, is your mentality, right? What I think I love about kind of this journey that I've explored as far as, our human psyche and that kind of thing, is the microcosm that bow hunting is to life in general. It is like you talked about. You have to, if you continue to do the right things and you continue to put in the work and you continue to try and improve, and you hold this positive mentality and this positive attitude, good things will happen. Success will come. Well, that's as true in life as it is in bow hunting, right? Like they're very transferable. That they're autonomous to each other. If you work hard, if you enjoy the process, if you don't get too caught up in what the outcome is, and you just keep doing the right things and you have a positive attitude, good things tend to happen. And that happens both in life and in bow hunting. Like you said, it's just a matter of patience and time and striking when the time is right, and taking advantage of an opportunity when one arises, right? So this dichotomy of bringing the 2 together, or how they relate to each other, I think is what, that the idea of of bow hunting and what it is to me is so transferable to what life is. It's really, it's a super profound, relationship there.
Yeah, man, spot
Right? You're
on.
going to have your downs. You're going to have your tough times. You're going to have to climb that mountain. And you're going to have to grind in life too, and to get to the other side and see what's there. And maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something not. It's this whole relationship between the two and how they're so intertwined or so relatable to each other.
Yeah. No, you're right. It is a microcosm of life, and once you see the way or you see the path, whether that's success in bow hunting, whether it's success in sports as a young kid, like once you see that, you start to see it every place in life, and you're right. Like once you can start to master that, I mean, my goal was to be a good bow hunter, but all of a sudden that started to transition into being a good father, being a good dad, being good in
Right.
with my construction company, being good at writing, being good at filming or podcasting or whatever it is, and realizing that none of it comes easy, and we can either be our own best cheerleader or our own best friend, or we can be our worst enemy. It's all inside our own brains. And you see people that have this cryptic way of thinking that are like, where it's this victim mentality, where it's always they just look at situations and it's always the world beating them up, or it's always hunting won't come together for me, but it comes together for everybody else, or it's like this victim mentality or just this cryptic way of thinking. And not that it's easy. Like life is really difficult, just like bow hunting is really difficult, and
Right.
in life and bow hunting, it's full of pain and uncertainty and relentless hard work. But once you start to figure out that there is opportunity, that I can make a better life for myself and my family, that they're, through hard work, through the right mindset, through keeping positive, like it's all achievable, And so once you realize that and realize that, man, I'm not thinking about this correctly, I'm making excuses here, or man, I'm not thinking about this right. I'm thinking about, I feel like everybody's after me, or all these bad things happen to me, and just like switching it and the way you think about things, and then just focusing on the things that you can focus on. Like it's amazing where you can get, the life you can build, and then like bow hunting dreams are a reality. Like these things that seem so far fetched, when I was a kid, or when that I was putting in all the work towards this bow hunting and I couldn't make it come together and I couldn't execute on animals, like pretty soon that work starts to pay off and that mindset starts to pay off, and start to be able to achieve these bow hunting goals I have, and then achieve them over and over again on tough hunts every season, on these tough endeavors. And really it's just I've built my mindset, I've built my skill set to a place. I've kept a good positive attitude, and man, that it does. It's like a microcosm, like you say, man. It carries over to everything in life, and all it is just changing your mindset, and then you're faced with these decisions every day of whether to get upset and angry, or whether to handle the situation and do the best you can and let the cards fall where they do. And so, yeah, I think we're just faced with this all the way through, and the lessons I learn in bow hunting directly apply to the other facets of my life. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's very profound to me how relatable. I mean, even it's like even right now, in my life, it's kind of going through transitions and struggles and things like that, and it's just there's days that I'll kind of have that victim mentality, and I check myself and I check my ego, and I'm like, hey, just stay positive, keep doing the things you're doing, keep doing the right things, and good things will happen. And really translating that to the same thing with bow hunting, like you talked about it. It's keep doing, keep getting in the cold tub every day, keep going to the gym every day, keep running every day, keep that positive attitude, keep shooting every day, keep that positive attitude, keep building yourself up, and you start building this confidence, and that confidence is really what is the key to everything, right? Bow hunting is all about confidence. If we're confident in what we're doing and the moves we're making and that intuition that we talk about, good things are going to end up happening. And it's just building that confidence. But the other thing is we live in such a society that's so everything right. We want everything right now, right? And you have to accept that the consistency over time is really the important thing, right? These small things that you consistently do over time is really what's going to help bring the results, right? It's the consistency. It's showing up every day. It's showing up and doing it every day, whether it's small things or big things, but it's that consistency over time is what really, reaps us results in the end.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Consistency, discipline, like all these practices, they add up over time. But you're right, the instant gratification of today's society, like everybody wants it right now. And, it's important to understand that it's a process, it's a journey, it's going to take time. And this bow hunting journey, it's tough not to compare yourself, but comparison is the thief of happiness. Like you can't
Oh,
compare
100%.
yourself to a guy like you or a guy like me that, I've dedicated 25 years of my life to bow hunting. I'm a lot further down the road or down my journey than somebody's that's in their first 5 years of bow hunting. And I definitely think that there's a shorter path to success, and I've definitely had hard knocks over the years, and it's taken me a while to learn lessons or to come up with these theories. But we're in the information day and age, and with the information in these books that we're reading, podcasts, like being able to understand the process and what it is. Like, guys can definitely cut that learning curve down and get there a lot quicker than I did. That's for sure. But just remember, too, that, you have to set goals that are achievable, to your opportunities and to what you can achieve, and be happy with that. Like, you can't, it's you can't compare yourself to everybody else out there. You have to focus on your own journey, and you have to decide that it may take me a little bit longer, or maybe I'm shooting for just a legal bull this year, because those are the opportunities that I get. And through time, you improve these skill sets. You get better as a hunter, better at flow states, better at execution. Like, you get to practice all these things along the way. And that's when the consistency starts coming in, for sure. But it is about that discipline and showing up every day. And it doesn't have to be this huge ultra marathon effort every day. It's just showing up and keeping good nutrition, good health, good exercise, shooting your bow. Like, these things that are important to your bow hunting, they have to be important every day, not just during season. Because once you get in season, that's the skill set you have, and
Right.
If you work hard in the off season, then you improve that skill set and you give yourself a better chance at success when you are on these tough hunts, But man, it's so fun. It's so fun to, like, that we found our passion in life and something that we really want to improve at, and it just gives me such purpose, as I know it does you too.
Yeah, it's and it's led me, to a lot of these other avenues, right? Like, bow hunting is really what I've always kind of been into fitness and that kind of stuff, but bow hunting really pushed me in that direction because I knew that I needed that to help contribute to be a better bow hunter. And bow hunting, and then that pushed me down to kind of looking at human performance and looking at longevity too, because I want to do this for a very, very long time. So, starting to look into that and how to keep your body in the best shape, and then that leads you to nutrition. And so the bow hunting's kind of been this catalyst for me to lead me down all these different paths and find these other passions that support my, that main passion and purpose and idea. And so I'm really blessed that it's done that. And it really gets me excited. And that's, to even talk about because of what it's led to and the information and the things I've learned and the people I've met and the situations I've been in. And, I'm just looking at it in your background, like the pictures, like the places and things we've seen as bow hunters that not a lot of people get to see, sunrises on the mountain and, sunsets in the mountain, or watching an animal and how they behave and just watching that animal and learning about, different things. We have to be, in my eyes as a bow hunter, we have to be educated in so many different worldly aspects, right? We have to have, some understanding of meteorology or weather. We have to understand, winds, geography and terrain, animal biology, fitness, shooting. We have all these different things that we have to be knowledgeable. So it gives us all these different things to explore and learn about too, which we should always be continually learning in life. And this gives us all these different platforms to learn about, and that's another thing that's just so profound to me is it's given me all these things to explore and learn and become more knowledgeable about, and in most people's real world lives outside of the bow hunting world, they're novel things. They're useless knowledge, quote unquote. But in our world, they're very important.
Yeah, it's everything to us. Yeah, I love how you say that. Like, bow hunting, it's such a passion and driving force. Like, there's something in our DNA and our ancestry that's like, the ones that hunted. It's the reason for our survival is to obtain this meat and this creative thinking. Like, there's something directly tied to our ancestry where when we get in nature and we're involved in the most intimate portion of nature that you can be, which is the predator-prey relationship in just the wildest country, in the lower 48 or in the world for that matter, like that country really challenges us to our core, and it makes us want to be better at the other facets of our life that help support our bow hunting. It's like all of a sudden, money, yes, it pays bills, and yes, it affords a financial security, so where I get to hunt more. So, it drives me in the rest of my life to make money, to be able to get into a good financial position so I can spend more time doing what I love to do, or it makes me want to be a better husband and enrich my wife's life. So therefore, she supports my passion of being out bow hunting on these adventures. And so we can almost use it as a catalyst to make a better life for ourselves. And it's all from this passion of this bow hunting. And you're right, like, man, we're the lucky ones. We get to go experience true adventure. Like, there's, once people grow up, you get in this lifestyle of work and driving your car back and forth, tap water coming out of the tap, and life's pretty nerfed and pretty safe. And like, to find true adventure where you get to go up in the mountains and test your skills, and it comes down to your wood sense of keeping yourself safe and dangers in the forefront of your mind, because you can die out there if you make the wrong decisions. It directly affects your safety and your livelihood. Like, it affects everything, and so like, having that much on the line and being able to go in and go have these wild adventures, it changes you. It like gives you passion in your life, and it gives you a zest for life, or this enjoyment of life where all of a sudden you get to have these extreme experiences, and you crave more of these extreme experiences, and you crave the difficulty and the challenge of these tough hunts to really push us to our limits physically and mentally. And through that, it forces you to go back to the drawing board and work hard at these facets and work hard to have a better mindset. And in all this work on ourselves, on our mindset, on being better, like, all of a sudden that just starts to translate into other facets of our life. You can't help it. And so it's really like an absolute gift, and what we can do is to enjoy it to the fullest and be present in those moments, like, not be thinking about bills or problems, or just be there, and you are like, you do get to experience incredible things out in this nature. And so our job is to be present and to enjoy it, and to come back to life with renewed vigor, which it does for me. It's like, it just makes me feel so alive that it's like I just want to do more of that. And I know I have responsibilities, and I'm a provider for my family, and I also have to be there to support my family and to mentor my kids and to show them, adventure wherever they find that adventure, whether it's in hunting or not, but to chase their dreams and to go for it. And so, yeah, I really come back from these hunts a changed person. And so that's why I'm so excited for like adventures this season, planning and training. And now I'm just so in love with the entire process of preparing for them, the anticipation of going on them, and then going and really challenging myself. And it always seems, we go on these hunts, they're always tougher than we can imagine. We get there and we have a plan for it, and all of a sudden we can't find bucks and we have to adapt. And I crave just being in that fight of being lost and making those decisions to go to a new spot. And nothing feels better than when you solve the puzzle and you find this epic hunting where you hear 300 bugles in a night and there's big 6 points racing around, and just this incredible experience that, I guess some guys can pay for it to go to a ranch or something, but at least for me, there's no way that you can buy something like that. It's all about creating this through hard work and through effort and figuring it out, and to find this special moment on public ground where it's epic hunting and I'm chasing them around with my bow in my hands, whether it comes together or not. Man, that's living life for me.
Yeah, it's you touched on something there from another book we had actually talked about, that the comfort crisis, which I read recently, and it goes to that whenever I come back from a long backcountry adventure, whatever it may be, that passion for life and for just being able to go to the faucet and get a glass of water versus having to go drop 1,000 feet, 1,000 vert to go get water and climb back out just to get water. You're constantly working out there. You're constantly surviving out there. And obviously technology has made it even easier for us, but it's still not as easy as it is back home, right? Everything is here. Everything's very comfortable. You can drive somewhere to go, you don't have to walk over there, but you just have I have such more appreciation when I get back from these long adventures and these hunts, that when I get back, I appreciate everything so much more in my everyday life. Right. And that, touches on a really good point of just how comfortable we are and having to make ourselves a little bit uncomfortable, to appreciate those comforts a little bit more,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. It's that comfort, it is, it is about you enjoy it more when you come back from these adventures. Is you enjoy the water coming out of the tap, or and it's also you appreciate your family when you're back there, and the love you have, and the lifestyle you get to live. And so when you come back, you're almost a bit of a changed person, really, and it does give you a bigger appreciation for the things that you have. And it's true, that's where we really grow, is in these difficult situations. And so these tough situations that we're in, figuring those out is where you get growth. And so constantly putting ourselves in these situations where we can grow in the uncomfortable, whether it's a long trail run, whether it's a tough hunt, whatever the case is, this is where we're going to growth, and where you start adding those layers of mental toughness and mental fortitude that will serve you in bow hunting and all of life, really.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. It's just that and I try and find that every day, right? A little bit of that every day. So,
Yes.
One thing that I've kind of incorporated, obviously, for guys like us, we get so I think we enjoy the process so much, going on a long trail run, working out and working hard and sweating and the physical side of things. I think that is almost so enjoyable for us that you can't call that part of the grind. I mean, it is a grind, but at the same time, I think we get enjoyment out of it. So I have to find things that are more, they may not be as physically challenging, but they're more mentally challenging to kind of hone that grit, right? Like in the process. So, one thing that I've really picked up in the last, 3 months or so is, I do a cold plunge or an ice bath every day, because it's this thing that I don't want to do, and I know what it's going to feel like, and I know, but I just force myself to do it. And it's just this layer every day, this small layer every day that just gets built up of touching that aspect of forcing my body to do something or my mind and my body to do something that it doesn't want to do, whereas people are like, oh, I don't want to go on a run. Well, for me, I'm like, I want to go on a run. Like that feels good to me, or I want to work out, or I want to sweat, or that's easy for me. That's for me, that's a necessity. Whereas getting in a cold water every day is not something that's easy, right? It's so we have to find these different avenues to find those little things in our processes, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it is. Yeah, we have to continually search them out. Like, you're right. Like, I started, like, running comes easy for me. It's something I enjoy, and it's, it is work, and I don't feel like it all the time. But for the most part, it's like I can convince myself that this is the right move. I will feel better after I'm done. And so you're right. We have to find different avenues to really challenge ourselves. And the cold plunge is a great one for me as well. As like, I hate cold water and hate getting in it, and so making myself do it, there's a bit of a win there. A bit of a mental win by making myself do it and following through with it. And the same thing, like running comes really easy for me, where CrossFit and lifting weights does not. It's like that is something that I don't enjoy as much of. I've been diligent and disciplined throughout my training to make sure I get upper body and push-ups and pull-ups, but those CrossFit workouts, if I'm being honest, are a bit of a weakness of mine. And it's tough to take a hit on your ego too, like to be so physically fit and so good in the mountains and shape my body for the mountains, and to go to a CrossFit and take me to my limits, or to see guys that are definitely way better at it than I am. It's like, man, this is a weakness of mine. Like, I might think I'm physically fit, but there's different levels of fit, and it's like I need to work on this as well as I do my running, as well as I do my shooting, because this is a weakness. So forcing myself to do that, or like, I'm still blown up from taking my daughter to the climbing gym the other day, and that's a real challenge. It's like, but I have to go in there and drop my ego because I know nothing about it, that I have to start off at being the worst one in there again, like trying to figure it out.
Yep.
And so it's like cool to go there with my daughter, let my ego go, and we go have fun climbing, and my forearms and my back are so sore because my body isn't used to that. Even though I've been on the pull-up bar, like to go do that for 2-3 hours and go as hard as I can go, like all of a sudden I blow myself up, but I crave it. I want more of it, but we have to work. Like, we don't always do these things that we're good at. We have to also do the things we're bad at, and that's good for your ego and for your mind.
Yep.
It's also good for your body to do these things that you're not used to doing. And so I'm the same way, man. As I'm like 42, and I've got like this good system to be consistently successful, but that doesn't mean that I'm resting on my laurels or resting on what I've done in the past. Like, I'm always trying to get better and to achieve more and to do more. Like, the fun for me is in the journey. And so, yeah, I'm searching out these difficult things that I'm not good at, these difficult things that I have to really work at. Or like swimming's another one. Like, I know how to swim, but dude, I just muscle my way through it through
Oh
the
my
years,
God.
you know? I'm
Yeah.
horrible. Like my wife has such good technique and just glides through the water where, man, I just splash my way around and I have to work so hard and my heart gets beating so quick. So this is like a glaring weakness that I can work on, and swimming is great, like low impact exercise. So, you know, this is something where I need to drop my ego, show up and be the worst one in the lanes, you know, look like an idiot
Yep.
for a while, but eventually I'll get better at it and it'll be good for me. And so, yeah, we have to search out these things that we're not good at for sure.
Yeah, it's I mean, you bring up a plethora of good points in that. You know, I'm so recently I'm going to start doing some work with a company, a gun accessory company, and some guys I'd met through the archery shop, and you know, they're more on the tactical side of things. Well, I'm not a gun guy as far as like I don't own a lot of guns. Bow hunting is my thing. I don't even own a hunting rifle. I do everything with my bow as much as possible. But these guys, you know, are wanting to teach me, you know, how to handle, you know, a carbine and how to handle a pistol better, and do some work with them for, you know, some camps and stuff that they're doing, and kind of help on their hunting side of stuff. But they're talking, and I'm completely new to, you know, really handling those weapons. Obviously, I've shot them, and I'm fairly comfortable around them. But this has been a whole new process too. Is you know, they just send empty weapons home with me, and they're like, hey, just play with these, learn how to handle these, those kind of things. I'm completely new to it. It's a new foreign thing to me, and you know, having to learn it, and having these nerves. I'm going to be around all these seasoned guys that have, you know, seen battle and used these things in life or death situations, and I'm nervous about it, but it's a really good feeling, because it's like I haven't been new in something like that for a very long time. And so it's really interesting, you know, going back to the basics of practicing things with that. But I also take that, and it's interesting what I've taken from that, and I can apply it back to bow hunting, because it's a lot of times we forget the basics, like handling your bow on the range, as far as not from a safety aspect, but just from how you handle your bow every day on the range, how you load an arrow, how you do these things is going to translate to how you do it in the field. So taking that step back and being like, oh, the basics of how do I maneuver my bow, or how do I, you know, making that an extension of yourself too. You know, I try and translate them. Maybe I stretch things and translate them and make connections, you know, that maybe aren't there, but they are for me. But I've actually taken this time learning how to handle these weapons and translated it back to my bow, and said, okay, you need to think about when you're on the range. Hey, I don't just grab an arrow, you know, usually you just grab an arrow, load it on, knock it. You see a lot of guys, how they handle their bow, how they knock an arrow, or whatever. And it's like, well, I need to go kind of rethink that, because I need to make sure that I'm being conscious of that when I'm just practicing on the range, how I'm loading an arrow, how I'm grabbing that second arrow, that second shot. I mean, for instance, my ram, I had practiced, you know, loading that second shot just for habit, and I missed him on the first one. It took me that second shot, but the fact that I naturally executed the first shot, realized I missed, and before I knew it, I had another arrow loaded and I was back on the string. That killed that ram for me. So it's doing these little things. It brought me back to learning something new, brought me back to the basics of something I already know, and refining and revisiting those basics to improve that as well, right? There's cross translations, this autonomy between the things that has really been cool to see too, you know?
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it's like how you draw your bow in practice. Like if you
Oh,
draw it
100%.
quick or
That's a
there's a
big
lot of
one too, right?
movement, like gosh, you
Yep.
you just and then you go to draw on an animal and you have to draw as slow as the hands of the clock with your pin on them, like trying to move slow. But if you haven't practiced that, it doesn't come natural, you know. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so good. I do find translation in so much of life that goes back to bow hunting that helps improve it, and it's like fly fishing lately. Like if I'm not in the mountains, I'm usually on the rivers with a fly rod, but I see so many connections from it, like it's public water, it's high pressure, you have to read water, it's nature, you have to time it right, you have to be fishing and doing everything correctly all the time, you have to believe. There's just so much of it that's like real similar to bow hunting. And it's one of the reasons why I absolutely love it. But yeah, I'm the same way, as I find a lot of translation like from bow hunting from other things, and it'll teach you about bow hunting. And it is tough when we've been doing it for so long that it becomes second nature in our habits. We almost stop thinking about them as much. And you're right, these new things that we take on, like being able to drop our ego, being able to be a beginner and ask questions. And it doesn't feel good. Sometimes you feel like an idiot. You just don't know about it, but this is part of the process and you have to embrace it, like embrace the learning. And I think it's like really fun to take on some of these new challenges and new things. So no matter where you're at in life, like I know, yoga and stretching has like really helped me, my physical fitness, and so
Yeah.
like taking this on and being an unflexible idiot at first is like part of the process, like I think swallowing that ego, asking questions, like just dropping that ego, which we all have some sort of ego involved, but just being able to drop that and take on these new challenges, or like in just these difficult situations, embrace them and try to perform. And yeah, same thing for me, whether it's public speaking or whether, I just got back from Eastman's, a bunch of boardroom meetings and speaking in front of people that you're unfamiliar with. And, it is, you put in the work and have confidence in yourself, and then you get in these situations, and yeah, you might be a little nervous or there may be a little anxiety there, but you just embrace it and do the best job you can and let the cards fall where they do. But yeah, it's like all these lessons, they teach us about life, which also apply to our bow hunting, which is, again, it's just so cool that we have a passion like this that we think about all the time, that really drives us.
Yeah, it goes back to that flow state, right? There's that struggle. There's that struggle section where we struggle to learn, and that risk section. There has to be some sort of risk, and we have to be, pushing ourselves to. When they talk about the book, 4% over what we think, 4 to 10% of over what we think we're capable of in those situations, which I don't know how you measure that, but you just have to, in my 1,000-foot view, is just have to make yourself a little bit uncomfortable in those situations. But it's interesting you bring up, yoga and doing something like that, and going back to kind of the fitness idea of things. The other thing that I've kind of explored too is longevity, right? Like, I have done CrossFit. I've been in the CrossFit space for a very long time, but I also have to start thinking about my longevity, and yoga and swimming and doing these things that I haven't spent a lot of time doing and I'm not very good at have become a much higher priority than going to the CrossFit gym every day, or, adjusting my workouts, because as we get older, our bodies start to break down. You can't constantly keep beating up our bodies like that. And, it's things like that we have to think about too for that human performance and longevity, is transitioning to new things that maybe we haven't done or we don't know a lot about. Right. So
Yeah, it's such a
I
huge
like
piece.
yoga. Yoga is a really interesting thing for me because I think it translates again, to bow hunting so well. How many times have you been on a stock and got stuck in a position that was not a very comfortable position?
Yeah, million
Had to
times.
had to freeze in a position, and you're like, this isn't my normal squat position in the CrossFit gym. This isn't any position that I'm used to being in. And you start doing shaking, and you're shaking everything around you because you're just, because you haven't been in that position. And yoga is one of those that puts you in those awkward positions to create strength and stabilize your muscles and things like that translate so well to those particular situations.
Yeah, and flexibility is such a key element to
Yeah.
human strength. It's like, man, I had a ton of human strength, but I wasn't flexible, and so I'd pull my back out when I was twisting or in an awkward position on a ladder or lifting in an awkward position. Even though I had strength, I didn't have the flexibility, and when I added the flexibility, it just made me more complete, where I can do those lifts in awkward positions, and I don't pull out my back. And you're right, like it applies to bow hunting so well. Stuck in those positions, and then one of the most difficult things, or the most exhausted I've been, is when you have to move slow all day long, when you
Oh.
have to move at a snail's pace. Like, stalking animals at a slow pace is extremely difficult, and being flexible and, like you say, having those stabilization muscles allows you to move slowly a lot more easily, or it comes more natural. And that's really tough to do. And I know, my man stretches or yoga or whatever you call it, it definitely helped with that, with my stalking abilities too. And so there's these things outside the box, and that really help in human performance. And you're right, it does change over time. Like, I think, it's being able to adapt it, like you're adapting it, and adapting it for longevity. I think that's such an important piece of it, is that I don't want to just get old. Like, I want to, like for me, it's not how long I live, it's how long I can live the life I want to live, and so it
No,
is
that's
like,
that is 100% true.
yeah, if I can't enjoy it, well, like if I can't enjoy life and enjoy the things around me, like, it's like, what's the point, So, like, it
Right.
is longevity in trying to do this, and that's where we're fortunate, is that, our sport or our endeavor that we've chosen, this backcountry hunting, that we can still do it. Like, there isn't a limitation on it, as long as we keep working on ourselves and working on our human performance, and the body adapts to the stress we put on it. And so, when you're constantly stressing your body, it adapts to it. And so you just don't lose as much when you start working at it. And the older we get, the harder we have to work to keep good nutrition, good fitness level, so we can keep enjoying the mountains that we love. And I just thought that was a great point, how you're able to adapt your training, more towards longevity, and still doing CrossFit and doing those workouts, but also adding other workouts that are lower impact, so your body can recover better. Man, I think that's so important moving forward.
Yeah, it's led, all this has led me down a lot of different paths too, from that aspect, from footwear to foot strength and how important that is to us, all these different things. But you said a really, really profound point there about, and I read this in one of the books, and I think it was The Comfort Crisis. They talk about people are living longer now, but they're living healthier shorter. So they're living longer, but the unhealthy, or the kind of, they're more miserable the longer they live. They're living in unhealthy situations where the health lifespan of somebody is actually shorter than it used to be when our lifespan was shorter, and that, to your point, I want to live for as long as I can healthily do the things I want to do. I don't want to be bedridden for the last 20 years of my life. I don't want to be not able to do the things that keep me alive, that give me passion, that give me purpose. And those things may adapt as I get older, but I still want to be able to. I'm a physical person. I'm sure they're going to be physical things, whatever they may be, and I want to do them as long as I possibly can. And that's part of that too, right?
Man, that's exactly it. Yep. Want to be able to do them for as long as I can, longevity. And then also, it's about enjoying life right now. It's like, so many times we put this carrot in front of the end of our nose that, finally when I get this, I'll be happy. Finally, when I kill a big bull, I'll be happy. Or put this carrot, like, finally when I'm financially secure, I'll be happy. Or finally when I'm able to retire from this job, or I'm able to change jobs, or I'm able to make X amount of money, or I'm able to have a house and a truck, I'll be happy. And really, you get those things, and then you find that doesn't bring happiness. that happiness is in the journey, and it's found every day. So as much as I want longevity, I know, you hedge your bets, you take the best care of yourself as you can, you look out for your longevity so you can keep doing the things you love to do. But it also is about enjoying right now, like making the most of your life right now. It's like these goals to go hunt these places 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, it might not happen. And you do have to plan for the future, but in the same breath, it's like, man, I'm going to live this season to the fullest. Like, I have responsibilities, I have to provide, yes, I have a job, I've got to work, but in that same breath, like, I am going to get the most out of this season. I am going to work my butt off to be at my very best, and when I get to this hunting season, I'm going to be present in those moments. I'm going to enjoy them to the fullest, because you never know when your time on planet Earth will be over. And we do get one chance at this life, and you hear that said, and it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But when you really think about it, like, you get your life to live in your own skin. Don't fret over trying to be somebody else or trying to be something you're not. Just try to get the most out of your life. And when you get the most out of your life and you're happy, then you can enrich the people's lives around you and make them happier. But if you're not happy, you can't do that. You can't enrich people's lives if you're not happy yourself. And so really working towards this personal happiness for right now, not next year, not 5 years, not 10 years, like right now, I'm trying to be happy and fulfilled and enjoy my life. And yeah, I realize that there's others out there with more than I have, but I'm not concerned about it. I have everything that I need, and I don't need this luxury lifestyle, or I don't need to go on these giant doll sheep hunts and grizzly bear hunts. And no shade to anybody that does. Those are amazing adventures, and for a long time those drove me. But I just realized, like, I would rather be a blue-collar bow hunter that gets to enjoy 10 mule deer hunts with my bow than one doll sheep experience. Now, everybody's different in their goals and ambitions and dreams. And like I say, no shade to anybody that does want to hunt them. But for me, it's like, man, I'm just really focused on this hunting season and today and getting the most out of this life and the most enjoyment I can, and trying to be happy so I can enrich my family's life and my friends' lives, and try to laugh and let go of this ego, or let go of this what everybody thinks about me or everybody else's perception. Like, it's tough to not care what people think, but when you carry your life and you carry your life in the right way and do the right things and you're happy with your life, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what people judge me for years because they thought I hunted too much or saw all these adventures I went on, and they would pass judgment that I'm a bad husband or a bad father because I hunt so much. Like, how's he gone this much, or misses this game or misses this? But they don't understand that when I'm here, I'm present with my family and making the most and trying to give them good advice and showing them about adventure in this different life. So it's like the only person that has to worry about my life is me. It's like nobody else cares for you. Like, I mean, people care about me, don't get me wrong, but you really have to look out for yourself in this life and your own happiness and make moves towards that. And I'm not, it's not about being so selfish that you ruin every relationship you have, but you do have to be selfish with what you enjoy to do in your time and the things that you love. And so you have to structure your life around those. But yeah, anyways, just some thoughts on being happy and finding purpose in life. But man, dude, I've held you up for a long time. I just got to get you back on the podcast again, man.
Yeah. I mean, we could keep going. I know we could, Brian, but yeah, I'm sure we both have things to do. But that just leads us in. We can, it's one of those things when you're having fun, that's when you stop, because then you hit, again, going back to that flow state, he talks about, if you're really into something or you're really onto something, stop right there. I mean, there's famous writers would stop in the middle of a chapter that they were writing that was really, really good. They'd stop so they knew they had something to come back to. So maybe that's where we leave it here, and then we come back to some more, because I know we could keep going, and I don't want to exhaust it all in one and keep moving.
Yeah, like you say, I could be on here forever talking to you, Braden. I really appreciate your friendship and insight, and so similar in our thought patterns and what we want to achieve and get out of life. So, man, it's so fun to compare notes, and I know, you're constantly reading, constantly working on yourself, constantly trying to take in that knowledge and then harness it into your own hunting. So I think it's just such an an asset for my listeners, like to be able to sit and have these in-depth conversations. So, man, I just I really appreciate you. I really appreciate your time. I burned up more than an hour and 20 minutes of your time this morning, but I
No,
really
you can't be
enjoyed it,
kidding.
man.
It's never burned up with you, Brian. It's never burned up with you. So, but yeah, I really appreciate you having me on, and let's do it again. I'm gonna try and get the book that you'd sent me over a book to
Yeah, The Power of One. Or The
the
Power of
power
One
of one
More. Yeah.
more. The power of one more.
Hmm.
And that's next on my list. So I'm gonna dive into that one, and maybe we can talk about that one a little bit next time, or I'll bring some more input I got from that one as well.
Yeah, I love the reading. I love finding motivation, and I love human performance, which I know you do too. So what were the other couple books that you mentioned just for guys?
So the Comfort Crisis was a really good one. I
I like
enjoyed.
that one too.
That one's been out for a while. The Art of Impossible,
I need to read that
which
one.
is the one I just finished. Um, and he's also got another one called The Making Superman, I believe is what it's called, which is another kind of flow state book. I haven't read that one yet, but that's on my list as well.
I love the
Um,
Goggins books too. They're so good. That both of them are just amazing.
Goggins books are always good as mindset kind of things. Atomic Habits is another one that's been out for a while, but that's another really good one as far as creating daily habits and discipline and things like that that kind of touches on a lot of that stuff. So
Man, that's so good. I think this is great to like recommend some good reading for just mindset and human performance. So yeah, man, I really appreciate the recommendations. I'm definitely going to dive into a couple of those books. And yeah, let's get on a month again, and we'll take off. We'll take off from where we left off on this conversation, like you said.
sounds good to me, buddy.
All right, take care.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
You too. All right, that's a wrap, guys. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. Thanks for the reviews, support on Instagram. I really appreciate it. And man, thanks to Braden for such a good podcast and insight. Definitely like that human performance genre. Like it's what I like to listen to, like to read and things. And so I really appreciate some of his suggestions. So, with that, that's the podcast. Make sure to go check out our sponsors for today's show. Check out Cryptech. Great gear. Have a brand new website put together. Go check it out. Just great gear system for all the way from early season to late season, and then that great camo pattern obscure transitional. Also, make sure to check out Cutter Stabilizers, great carbon fiber stabilizers built super stout. They also have a sidebar mount and then have the 1 ounce weight so you can really adjust the hold and reaction of your bow. Check out Black Ovis Internet Retail Shop and also Camo Fire. So thanks to those guys. Go check out Dan and I's podcast. Should be released tomorrow. You can search Eastman's Bowhunting Journal podcast and should be available as long as I can get everything loaded up. So there'll be 4 episodes on there for you. And yeah, just really like the cohesiveness and really like just the chemistry between us makes for a great conversation, great podcast where we can dive a little bit further in depth in some of these subjects. So there's a subject on gear in there, subject on timing and planning your hunts and strategy in some of these units and what we're looking for out west. There'll be an episode all about. Let's see, what was the last? There's some bear season, some bear tactics in there, international travel in there. Just a bunch of good insight. And as we get discussing things, like it just pops up where there's a good tidbit of information that I'm sure you guys can use in future hunts. So make sure to go check that out. Check out everything we do over at Eastman's. And man, as far as me, just been bear hunting a bit here. It's finally starting to get right. Seeing a couple around, and then grass is starting to get ready. So yeah, just making some good hikes around. I haven't found any giant boars or got any plays on any yet, but it's just turning on now. So for the next month or so, it should be really good hunting. So just stoked to get out with my bow and go chase them around. I did have one backpacking trip that was a couple days. It was pretty fun, and looking forward to doing more of that. So just trying to get my work done here and make it out bear hunting a bit, and starting to put together my fall season, which is super exciting. So hope you guys are drawing some tags or putting together hunting season as well. I haven't drawn too much, but I've been able to pick up some tags here and there, and kind of fill out my season and get things planned, and then waiting on a couple more drawings to come out. I saw that I blanked in the sheep and goat department in Montana. So to my buddy Dan, he blanked in moose, sheep, and goat. I haven't heard of anybody that's drawn yet, but sure is an awesome opportunity, and I had that opportunity on moose last year, so I really can't complain too much. But yeah, we'll see if I can get lucky here in the last couple drawings, finish out, start planning my fall, so it should be exciting. So with that, thanks a bunch, you guys, for the support. Again, thanks for the reviews on iTunes. Really helps with the algorithm, and passing this on to your friends, tagging us in posts, like all that stuff helps to get the word out about the podcast. So I really appreciate that. And man, with that, I'll check in with you guys next week.